Here is a great, deep, and detailed summary of the full passage about Firoz Shah Tughlaq's early life, written in the simplest possible English, with full background, added explanations, and everything made crystal clear, better than any textbook or AI. Great, deep, detailed summary of Firoz Shah Tughlaq's early life. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was born in the year 1309 CE, over 700 years ago, during a time when the Delhi Sultanate ruled much of northern India. He was born into a royal family, but his background was mixed. His father was from the ruling Tughlaq dynasty, while his mother was a Rajput princess from a small chieftain family. This mix of noble Turkish Muslim and Rajput Hindu background shaped his identity. Family background. Father. His name was Rajab. Rajab was the younger brother of Ghiyas-ud-Din Tughlaq, the man who later became the Sultan, King of Delhi. This made Firoz the nephew of a king. Mother, she was a Bhati Rajput, a warrior caste proud of their honor and tradition. Her father was Ran Mal, a small chieftain who ruled a little area in a place called Abohar, which is now in Hisar district in Haryana. It was part of East Punjab back then. A forced marriage story. The marriage between Rajab and the Rajput girl was not peaceful or happy in its beginning. It was a forced marriage. Ghiyas-ud-Din Tughlaq, also known earlier as Ghazi Malik, was the governor of Dipalpur before becoming king. He heard about the beauty and grace of this Rajput girl, Ran Mal's daughter. He wanted his brother Rajab to marry her, and so he demanded that Ran Mal give her in marriage. But Ran Mal, being a proud Rajput, refused. He did not want to bow to pressure, even if it came from a powerful governor. In response, Ghazi Malik used force. He punished Ran Mal and his people by causing great suffering, probably through attacks, cutting off supplies, and creating fear. Seeing her family in pain and danger, the Rajput girl sacrificed her own wishes. She told her father that if marrying Rajab could save their family from destruction, she was willing to marry. This was not love or free choice. It was a sacrifice made to protect her family. From this union of pressure and sacrifice, Firoz was born. Firoz education and training. As a boy, Firoz was raised in a royal household. He was given the typical training expected for noble boys. He learned how to administer a kingdom, making rules, collecting taxes, managing land, etc. He was trained in warfare, how to fight, lead soldiers, and plan battles. But even though he was trained, Firoz was not very talented in these areas. He didn't stand out as a great leader or great warrior. His relationship with Muhammad Tughlaq. Firoz's cousin, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, became the Sultan after Ghiyas-ud-Din's death. Muhammad had a lot of love and care for Firoz. He gave Firoz responsibility in the administration of the kingdom, meaning Firoz helped in ruling the empire. Though Firoz was not the best at governing or fighting, Muhammad trusted him. It is said that Muhammad even wanted Firoz to become king after him. He was chosen as the next ruler, successor of the Tughlaq dynasty. Final summary in one paragraph, still clear and deep. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was born in 1309 to a royal father, Rajab, and a Rajput mother, the daughter of Ran Mal, a small local ruler. His mother's marriage was forced. The powerful Ghazi Malik, later King Ghiyas-ud-Din Tughlaq, threatened and pressured Ran Mal into giving his daughter to his brother Rajab. Firoz was born from this union. He grew up in a royal setting, trained in ruling and fighting, but didn't show great talent. However, his cousin, Muhammad Tughlaq, loved him and included him in government work. Even though Firoz was not outstanding, Muhammad likely planned for him to be the next king. And this is how Firoz came to be the future Sultan of Delhi. Would you like me to now explain the next part of his life, like how he became Sultan and what he did as a ruler? Or should I make this into a visual comic strip next? Here is a great, deep, and detailed summary of the entire passage about Firoz Shah Tughlaq's accession to the throne in 1351, written in very simple language with extra background, examples, and full clarity, perfect for any beginner to fully understand. Great, deep, detailed summary. The accession of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, 1351. In the year 1351 CE, the ruler of the Delhi Sultanate, Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq, was on a military campaign in a place called Thatta, located in present-day Sindh, Pakistan. This campaign was part of his efforts to suppress Taghi, a powerful rebel who had challenged the Sultan's authority in the region. At this time, Muhammad bin Tughlaq's rule was already under stress due to repeated rebellions, failed policies, and natural disasters. The army was tired and troubled, and the political situation was very unstable. Muhammad bin Tughlaq's death, 20th of March, 1351. While in Thada with his army, Muhammad bin Tughlaq died on the 20th March 1351. His death created a sudden power vacuum. There was no clear ruler, and the kingdom was in a dangerous situation. The army was under great pressure from two sides, one from Taghi, the rebel who was attacking them. Two, from Mongol mercenaries, foreign soldiers from Central Asia who had been hired by the Sultan to help fight, but were now creating problems for itself. With the Sultan dead and danger all around, the army became confused and leaderless. They feared that if they didn't act quickly, they might all be defeated, scattered, or even killed. The need for a new leader. In such a tense situation, the nobles, important ministers and commanders of the army realized they needed a new leader immediately to keep the army united and safe. If they delayed, the army could collapse. At this point, they remembered that Sultan Muhammad had expressed a wish that his cousin Firoz should become the next sultan after him. So, most people in the army naturally looked toward Firoz as the best option to become the next king. The other claimant, a young nephew. However, there was a sub of nobles who did not agree. They wanted a young boy's sister to become the sultan. Their argument was that this boy was more closely related by blood to Muhammad than Firoz. But the majority of nobles rejected this idea. They believed that a young child could not handle such a serious crisis. The empire was facing war, rebellion, and confusion. A minor child could not lead armies or manage such a dangerous. What they needed was an experienced and respected person who could give strong leadership immediately. Firoz is urged to take the throne. The nobles, commanders, scholars, ulema, and respected religious elders, sheikhs, all united in asking Firoz to accept the crown and become the new Sultan of Delhi. But Firoz Shah was not interested in power. He was known to be a quiet, humble, and deeply religious man. He preferred a life of peace, prayer, and simplicity rather than political power and war. So at first, he refused their request to become sultan. He did not want to be involved in the dangerous wars of the empire. Strong pressure from nobles and religious leaders. However, the nobles, scholars, and elders kept pressing him. They told him that the kingdom needed him, and only he could ability. They said that refusing would bring disaster to the empire. After much pressure and many, Firoz finally gave in. He agreed to become the king, not out of ambition, but out of a sense of duty and responsibility. Coronation of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, 23rd of March 1351. Only 3 days after Muhammad bin Tughlaq's death, on the 23rd March 1351, Firoz was officially crowned as the new Sultan of Delhi. Since the army was still in the field and in a dangerous area, his coronation took place in the military camp itself, near Thada. This was a rare situation. Most coronations happened in Delhi, but this one had to be done in an emergency. What this event shows: 1. The urgency of the situation. The army was surrounded by enemies and had no time to wait for royal ceremonies. 2. The trust in Firoz Shah. Even though he didn't want to rule, everyone saw him as the only person capable of saving. The importance of experience. In a time of crisis, the nobles chose an adult with wisdom instead of a child with stronger blood ties. 4. Firoz's character. His refusal shows he was not greedy for power, and his acceptance later shows he was dutiful and responsible. Final summary. 1 paragraph. When Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq died suddenly in Thada in 1351, his army was in crisis. Surrounded by enemies like Taghi and unreliable Mongol mercenaries, the royal forces needed a leader immediately. Though some nobles supported a child relative of the Sultan, most chose Muhammad's cousin Firoz, as he was an adult and capable of leadership. Firoz was a shy and religious man who did not seek power, but after strong pressure from nobles and religious leaders, he agreed. His coronation took place in the military camp on the 23rd of March 1351, and thus began the reign of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, one of the most important rulers of the Delhi Sultanate. Would you like a comic strip version of this? A Q&A style revision sheet? A timeline or flowchart of the events? Just let me know. Here is a great, deep, and very detailed summary of the passage in the simplest English, like teaching a total beginner or child with extra explanation and clarity. Background. After Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq died, the kingdom was in confusion. There was no clear new king yet. The army was in danger and needed leadership. This is the story of how Firoz Shah Tughlaq became the new king. Restoring order and starting the journey to Delhi, Firoz Shah took charge of the army after the Sultan's death. The army had become weak and disorganized. Firoz brought discipline back to the army and protected it from enemy threats. Then, he decided to march to Delhi, the capital, to take control as king. A challenge in Delhi. But before he reached Delhi, bad news came. A man named Khwaja-e-Jahan, a powerful minister under Muhammad Tughlaq, had already declared a young boy to be the next king, saying he was the son of Muhammad Tughlaq. He had even performed a coronation ceremony in Delhi, official event to make someone king. Firoz's response in Multan. Firoz and his army were still in Multan, a city in present-day Pakistan. Firoz called a meeting with nobles, powerful and rich people, Muslim jurists, religious law experts. The nobles and scholars give their opinion. The nobles refused to accept that the boy was the real son of Muhammad Tughlaq. The jurists gave a strong legal opinion. In Islamic law, the throne is not passed down automatically to the son. A minor, underage child cannot become king. What was needed was a strong adult leader to handle the kingdom during this difficult time. Important point, in Islamic tradition, kingship is based on ability and support, not just being someone's son. Khwaja-e-Jahan's plan fails. It became clear that Khwaja-e-Jahan's boy king had no chance. Khwaja-e-Jahan gave up, surrendered, and asked for forgiveness. Since he had served the previous king well, Firoz forgave him. He was sent away to live in his land, called Samana. But tragedy strikes. Later, Khwaja-e-Jahan was killed by a soldier working under Sher Khan, the governor of Sunam and Samana. It is believed this killing was secretly ordered by powerful nobles who did not trust Khwaja-e-Jahan anymore. Firoz becomes the true king. Now, there was no one else trying to take the throne. Firoz was accepted by everyone, nobles, army, and scholars. He became the undisputed, fully accepted without argument, ruler of a large empire. Summary in one line. After Muhammad Tughlaq's death, Firoz took control, faced a fake boy king challenge, got support from nobles and scholars, and became the rightful full king of the Delhi Sultanate. Let me know if you want this in comic strip, timeline, or visual chart form too. Here is a great, deep, and very simple summary of the passage about Firoz Shah Tughlaq's accession to the throne, written like you are a beginner and want full clarity. Main topic. Who should be the next sultan after Muhammad bin Tughlaq? After Muhammad bin Tughlaq died, there was confusion and debate about who should be the next ruler, sultan, of Delhi. Some people supported a young boy. This boy was chosen and supported by Khwaja-e-Jahan, an important minister. Khwaja-e-Jahan claimed that the boy was the real son of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Historian Sir Wolseley Haig believed this boy was not fake, he was truly Muhammad's son. So, according to him, Firoz Shah was a usurper, someone who wrongly took the throne. But other historians disagree. They say there is no proof that the boy was really Muhammad's son. Even if he was Muhammad's real son, Firoz's rule was still legal. According to Islamic law, a king is not chosen just because he is someone's son. Anyone who is capable and worthy can become king. So, the throne is not passed on by inheritance, like in a royal family. Example. Imagine a school chooses a class monitor. It's not automatically the child of the previous monitor. It's the student who is best for the job. In Delhi Sultanate, Islamic rule in India, sometimes sons did become rulers, but it was not a rule. 3 things mattered most. 1. Competence, fitness. Was the person able to rule? 2. Approval of nobles and religious scholars. Did important people support him? 3. Nomination by previous sultan. Did the old king choose him? Firoz fulfilled all. 1. He was fit to rule. 2. He was elected by nobles and jurists. 3. According to historian Barani, himself had nominated Firoz. So, Firoz was legally and properly chosen to be the sultan. Historian Dr. R.P. Tripathi says, Firoz's selection was very important. Why? 1. It brought back the idea of choosing a ruler based on fitness, not just family. 2. It proved that a ruler's mother didn't have to be born Muslim. A ruler didn't need to be a warrior. This was a new and important idea in the Delhi Sultanate. Final summary. Firoz Shah's accession, becoming king, was legal, wise, and important. Even though there was a boy claimed to be the real son of the previous king, Islamic law did not demand that sons inherit the throne. Firoz was chosen because he was fit, had support, and was probably nominated by the previous ruler. This made his rule legal and correct, not a usurpation. Would you like me to turn this into a colored comic strip too? Here is a great, deep, and detailed summary of the passage on Firoz Shah Tughlaq's domestic policy and administration in the simplest and clearest way possible, like teaching a total beginner. Summary of Firoz Shah Tughlaq's administration, domestic policy. 1. Becoming sultan without trouble. In August 1351, Firoz Shah Tughlaq entered Delhi, the capital city, peacefully. There was no fight or resistance. People did not oppose his rule. This shows he had support or that the situation was calm enough for a smooth takeover. 2. Powerful prime minister. Appointed a man named Maliki Maqbul as his prime minister. He gave him the title Khan-e-Jahan, which means chief of the world, or a very high title. Maliki Maqbul was originally a Hindu Brahmin from Telangana, a region in South India. He converted to Islam, and Firoz trusted him. He was a very skilled and wise administrator, and his help became a great strength for Firoz's government. 3. Winning people's hearts. Firoz wanted the people to like and trust him, so he forgave all the debts that people owed to the government. He also did not try to take back the money spent by the previous ruler's minister, Khwaja-e-Jahan, during a failed attempt to make someone else the king. This generous behavior made the people very happy and helped build trust. 4. Support from Sunni Muslims. Firoz Shah was lucky that the people of Delhi supported him, especially the Sunni Muslims, the largest group of Muslims. Their support helped him to improve law and order, reduce crimes and violence, give people safety, which was badly needed. Under the previous king Muhammad bin Tughlaq, there were many problems and unrest. 5. He saw himself as a guardian of the people. Firoz believed he was a trustee, a caretaker or protector of the state. He felt personally responsible for the well-being of his people. He believed in a theocratic government where religion and politics go together. 6. Dual role of Firoz Shah. Firoz worked in 2 roles. 1. He was the temporal, worldly ruler of all people, both Muslims and non-Muslims, in his empire. 2. He was also the religious and political ruler of the Muslims. He tried to guide their moral and religious life too. He wanted to be a true Islamic king, helping his Muslim people in both worldly and religious matters. 7. Results of his rule. Because of his good policies, people became more prosperous. They had better lives. Islamic beliefs became more important, especially Orthodox Islam, strict following of rules and traditions. Final summary. Firoz Shah Tughlaq became sultan peacefully, chose a wise prime minister, and worked hard to win the people's trust. He saw himself not just as a king, but as a protector and religious leader. He worked for the good of all people, but especially Muslims, and his rule brought peace, better administration, and more focus on Islamic law and order. If you'd like, I can now create a comic strip or diagram showing these events step by step. Would you like that? Here is a very simple, deep, and clear summary of the passage about Firoz Shah Tughlaq's second major task as ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. Main idea. Firoz Shah's second big challenge as sultan was to make the Delhi Sultanate strong again after it had become weak and disorganized during the end of Muhammad bin Tughlaq's rule. Why was this difficult? 1. The kingdom had lost important areas like the Deccan region in South India, Bengal, Eastern India, Sindh, modern-day Pakistan, Rajasthan, northwest India. 2. To fix this, Firoz needed to win wars and bring these places back under his control. But Firoz had a problem. Firoz was not a strong military leader. He was not good at scaring or controlling powerful enemies, so he was afraid of trying to win back the Deccan and Rajasthan. He only made a small, weak attempt to take back Bengal and Sindh, and that also failed. What did Firoz do instead? He did not try to make the Sultan's power stronger through wars or fear. He was a peace-loving ruler. His main goal was to make the people's economic life better, to improve farming, jobs, and daily life. How did he manage the government? He did not create many new rules or systems, except in the revenue department, which dealt with taxes and income. But he made the existing system work well. He chose smart and skilled ministers. He gave them full trust and freedom to do their jobs. He supported them fully. Why was this important? This was the real secret of his success. Open quote. Even without winning big wars or becoming a strong king like others, Firoz was able to run the government smoothly and keep the people happy and safe. Close quote. Extra simplified example. Imagine a school. Before, the school was in a mess. Students were fighting, teachers had left, and classes were not running. A new principal, Firoz, comes in. He is not strict and doesn't want to fight with naughty students or force the old teachers to return. But he hires good new teachers, gives them trust, lets them do their job, and makes sure students feel safe and calm. Slowly, the school runs well again, not by force, but by good management and peace. Final summary. Firoz Shah's second big goal was to rebuild the Delhi Sultanate's strength. But instead of war and power, he focused on peace, trusted helpers, and improving people's lives. That is how he ruled successfully, not through fear or conquest, but through good leadership and support. Let me know if you'd like a comic strip or diagram of this too.
Here's a rich, deeply detailed summary of Firoz Shah Tughlaq's revenue policy, simply but covering everything important. 1. A broken revenue system. When Firoz Shah became Sultan, the kingdom's financial system was in chaos. People were miserable due to extortion. Officers forced farmers to pay much more than fair taxes, maladministration, poor management of funds, and corrupt officials. Famines, crop failures made people poorer, yet taxes remained high. Farmers and common people had lost faith in the government. 2. Firoz's first reforms, healing people's wounds, cancelled old loans. Previous rulers had given farmers Tughlaq loans to help them, but many couldn't repay. Firoz forgave these loans, reducing their burden. Increased officer salaries. Low-paid officers relied on bribes. Firoz raised salaries so they could work honestly. Ended torture. Earlier, officers were beaten or tortured in court if money didn't match records. Firoz banned physical punishment, making administration fairer. Now 3. Need for stable income. The big task. A sultan must know how much tax money comes in each year to pay soldiers, maintain law and order, build infrastructure. The existing system had no proper estimate of state income. Firoz wanted a clear, reliable number for planning expenses. Khwaja Hisamuddin's mission. Firoz appointed Khwaja Hisamuddin, an expert officer, to tour every province, study old tax records, speak to local officials and farmers. This massive survey took 6 years because the empire was huge. No modern tools existed. Everything had to be checked manually. Above 5, final revenue estimate. After years of hard work, Khwaja reported total annual revenue from Khalsa land, directly ruled land, equals 6 crore 85 lakh tankers. This became the permanent annual revenue of Firoz's reign. Farmers and officers finally knew exactly how much tax to expect each year. 6. Method used. Unlike earlier rulers who used scientific land measurement, measuring each farm, checking actual crop yields, Firoz's system relied on estimates, local knowledge, past records. Though less accurate, it was practical and fast for the time. Achievements and impact. Stability, permanent revenue fixed, predictable tax, less fear among farmers. Trust, loan forgiveness, fair treatment rebuilt people's faith in the Sultan. Reduced corruption, higher salaries and no torture encouraged honest administration. Efficient management, for the first time the Sultan knew his exact yearly income. In short, Firoz Shah Tughlaq rescued a failing tax system. He removed heavy burdens from farmers, treated officers humanely, and created a stable, predictable revenue system. While not scientifically perfect, this reform was a major achievement, bringing peace, trust, better governance to the kingdom. Would you like me to also create a timeline chart showing these reforms step by step? Chaos, loan cancellation, officer reform, survey, fixed revenue? Here's a complete, deep and easy-to-read summary of Firoz Shah Tughlaq's tax and revenue reforms, covering every point and its impact. Now, Number 1. Removing unfair taxes. Firoz abolished 24 harsh taxes that troubled common people. This included grazing tax on animals eating grass tax and house tax for owning homes. Farmers and ordinary people were relieved because they no longer had to pay these unnecessary fees. Number 2. Lowering land revenue. Main tax equals land revenue, the biggest burden on farmers. Firoz reduced this tax, letting farmers keep more crops and income. This improved agriculture and living standards. Number 3. Ending benevolence payments. Earlier, governors had to pay forced gifts to the Sultan when they took office and every year after. Governors recovered this money by overtaxing farmers, adding hidden costs. Firoz ended this practice, protecting farmers from extra taxation. Number 4. Following Quranic tax rules, after reforms, Firoz limited taxation to 4 main Islamic taxes. Kharaj, land tax on agricultural production. Khams, 20% of war loot, treasure captured in battles, went to the state. Previous rulers kept 80%. Firoz followed Islamic law, soldiers kept 80%, state took only 20%. Jizya tax on non-Muslims for protection under Islamic rule. Earlier, Brahmins were exempt or avoided it. Firoz made everyone pay, strictly enforcing the rule. Zakat, 2% wealth tax paid only by Muslims, spent on charity, helping the poor, orphans and religious activities. Number 5. Introducing irrigation tax. Firoz built canals to improve farming. Farmers who used canal water paid a 10% tax on the produce. Fair because only those benefiting from canals paid this tax. Number 6. Controlling corruption. Officers were warned, don't collect more than the official tax. Any officer overcharging farmers was punished. Officers received large salaries, land grants and allowances, so they didn't need to harass cultivators. Number 7. Overall impact. Fairer tax system. Only essential taxes remained. Relief for farmers, fewer taxes plus reduced land revenue burden. Religious compliance, taxes matched Islamic laws. Better treatment, soldiers got fair war rewards, officers stopped harassing farmers. Economic growth, stable, predictable taxes encouraged farming and trade. In short, Firoz Shah Tughlaq transformed the tax system by abolishing 24 unfair taxes, reducing land revenue, ending hidden charges, and aligning taxation with Islamic principles. He added a fair irrigation tax, strictly punished corrupt officers, and paid officials well to ensure honesty. The result was a simpler, fairer, and more religiously just revenue system, improving farmers' lives and strengthening the state. Would you like me to make a side-by-side comparison chart showing before Firoz versus after Firoz tax system for quick revision? Here is a great, deep and detailed summary of the full passage about Sultan Firoz Shah Tughlaq's reforms in very simple language and easy structure so even a total beginner can understand clearly. Deep and detailed summary of Firoz Shah's trade and revenue reforms. Trade made free and easy. Problem before Firoz. Many taxes and duties were placed on goods being traded within the country. These taxes slowed down trade and increased costs for traders. Because of this, people stopped trading and the economy became weak. What Firoz did, he removed many of these harmful taxes, especially on internal trade inside the kingdom. This made it cheaper and easier to move goods between cities and towns. Result: trade was revived, brought back to life. Merchants and traders could earn profits again. The kingdom's commercial prosperity, success in business and markets increased. 2. Revenue income increased by smart reforms. Firoz Shah didn't raise taxes harshly. Instead, he focused on improving the tax collection system. He paid great attention to how taxes were collected. He made sure that the system was well managed, fair, and not corrupt. This smart approach gave him more income revenue without burdening the people. 3. Main sources of his increased revenue. Firoz Shah's government earned money mainly through 3 smart methods. 1. Better farming, improved agriculture. Farmers used better seeds and tools, and irrigation improved. They grew high-quality crops. More crops equals more to sell, equals more taxes paid. This helped both the farmers and the government. 2. Water tax. Firoz built canals, man-made water channels to supply water to farms. Farmers who used this water had to pay a small water tax. This tax was fair because it helped farmers grow more food. It gave extra income to the king. 3. Fruit gardens. Firoz loved gardens, not just for beauty but for feeding the people. He built 200 fruit gardens around Delhi. These gardens solved the food shortage in Delhi. No one went hungry. Gave an annual income of 180,000 tankers, a lot of money at that time. 4. Results of his smart reforms. For the people, food became more available, trade became easier, Taxes were fair and fewer in number, no unnecessary harassment by tax collectors. For the kingdom, income revenue increased. The economy became stable and strong. Delhi had enough food, no famines or hunger. The kingdom became more peaceful and prosperous. Final thought. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was not just a ruler, he was a wise economic planner. He understood that removing unfair taxes, improving farming and using natural resources like water and land properly could grow the economy without hurting the people. Instead of taking more from the people, he made the system smarter, so both the people and the kingdom benefited. Let me know if you'd like a comic strip version of this, a chart or table summarizing it, a video script, or a story version with characters for easier learning. Sure, here's a great, deep, detailed summary of the full passage you just learned, written in the simplest, clearest way, like a story but rich in meaning and depth, perfect for full understanding and memorization. Prosperity under Sultan Firoz Shah Tughlaq's reign. During the reign of Sultan Firoz Shah Tughlaq, the Kingdom of Delhi experienced a period of great prosperity, development and peace. This was all thanks to a number of wise reforms and careful planning by the Sultan. 1. Agriculture grew strongly. Firoz made efforts to extend cultivation, expand farming to more areas. Land that was dry or unused was now watered and farmed. He built canals for irrigation, which gave water to fields even during dry seasons. Farmers began to grow better quality crops. This led to food production increasing, and farmers were able to earn more. Result, food became more plentiful and farmers became more successful. 2. Trade became free and strong. Firoz removed many taxes that had stopped people from trading freely. This made it easier and cheaper to buy and sell goods across regions. Internal trade within the kingdom grew rapidly. Traders didn't have to pay bribes or face unfair rules anymore. Result, markets became active, goods became cheaper, and trade revived. 3. People became richer and happier. With better farming and free trade, people's daily needs were easily fulfilled. Things like grain, food, clothes and household items became very cheap. Almost every village was busy with activity, and most land was cultivated. Though historians say no land was wasted, this may be slightly exaggerated, but farming definitely improved a lot. Result, people had plenty of food, money and comfort in their homes. 4. Houses were full of wealth. The historian Shamsi Siraj Afif gave a glowing picture of life in Firoz's time. Homes were full of grain, horses, property, furniture. Even ordinary people had gold and silver coins. Every woman had jewellery. Every house had good beds and furniture. Result, comforts were everywhere. Even poor or middle-class families lived well. 5. State revenue increased, without oppressing people. Although taxes were reduced and fairer methods were used, the kingdom still earned more revenue. This happened because 1. Farmers produced better and more crops. 2. Pharaohs built gardens and farms which earned income. 3. He introduced a small water tax to maintain canals. The government was never short of money. The treasury was full, no financial crisis or debt. Example. The region of Doab alone gave the king 80 lakh tankers, a huge amount. The Delhi region gave 6 crore 85 lakh tankers. Result, the Sultanate was financially stable and the people were not burdened. Firoz Shah ruled in a very smart and fair way. He focused on helping farmers grow more, making trade free and simple, spending money on useful public works, following Islamic principles for justice. Because of this, his time as ruler became a golden age. Food and goods were cheap, people were rich and comfortable, government had more money but people were not oppressed. His reforms created a strong, happy and rich kingdom, something rarely seen in medieval history. Let me know if you'd like this as a storybook version, comic strip summary, table comparison of before versus after Firoz's rule. Memory tricks to remember this. I'm ready to help in the way that suits you best. Here's a great deep detailed summary of the entire explanation of Firoz Shah Tughlaq's revenue policy and its 3 major defects, written in simple, clear language, yet rich in detail, so that even a beginner can understand everything with full clarity. Topic: Firoz Shah Tughlaq's revenue policy, main defects. Background: Firoz Shah Tughlaq ruled 1351 to 1388 CE, was a ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. He was known for many reforms and developmental works, but some of his economic policies, especially related to tax collection and land revenue, had serious problems. The three main defects of Firoz's revenue policy: the farming system, tax farming. What it was, instead of having government officers collect taxes, Firoz allowed private people, bidders, to buy the right to collect taxes from certain areas. These people offered a large sum to the government. Whoever bid the highest won the right. They were then allowed to collect as much tax as they could and keep the extra profit. Why it was done: to make revenue collection easier for the government, to get quick money from the highest bidder. Why it was a big problem: these tax collectors tried to squeeze out maximum money from the poor farmers. They used force, threats, and unfair methods to collect more than what was fair. Farmers became overburdened and poor, and some abandoned their lands. Historical comparison: earlier rulers like Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq had stopped this system, knowing how harmful it was. But Firoz revived and promoted it, making life worse for cultivators. Jagir system, payment through land grants. What it was: instead of paying soldiers, officers and government workers in cash, Firoz gave them land, called jagirs, as payment. The people who got these jagirs were allowed to collect taxes from that land. What happened? Many officers were not interested in managing the land or collecting taxes themselves, so they sold the rights to tax collectors, who again abused the farmers. The government lost revenue because the land was no longer directly under its control. The officers didn't get full value because they sold their rights for less than it was worth. The people suffered, and land administration became corrupt. Why this was a problem? This led to loss of government control, corruption, suffering of farmers. It also weakened the central administration and created a group of powerful landholders who cared more about profit than justice. Historical comparison: again, Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad Tughlaq had avoided using jagirs for this very reason. Firoz, however, gave out jagirs generously, thinking it would save him money, but it created a bad long-term effect. Jizya tax, religious tax on non-Muslims. What it was: jizya was a religious tax imposed on non-Muslims. Muslims didn't pay it. Non-Muslims, especially Hindus, had to pay it just to live under Muslim rule. What Firoz did: Firoz was very religious. He believed that non-Muslims. He was shocked that Brahmins, Hindu priests, didn't have to pay jizya earlier. So, for the first time in Sultanate history, Firoz imposed jizya on Brahmins too. Why this was a problem? Jizya was already unpopular among non-Muslims. By extending it to religious leaders, Brahmins, it created anger and tension. It hurt the feeling of religious tolerance. It made non-Muslims feel like second-class citizens. It also led to resentment and unrest in society. Effects of these three defects. Area affected. What happened? Farmers were forced to pay extra taxes by private collectors. Many suffered or abandoned land. Officers and soldiers were given land instead of salary because they sold. Government lost direct control of land and lost a lot of revenue. Society: religious tensions increased due to harsh jizya collection, especially from Brahmins. Administration became weaker, more corrupt, and more controlled by private landowners. Conclusion, short but full of meaning. While Firoz Shah Tughlaq was a capable ruler in many ways, building canals, gardens and cities, his revenue policies had three major flaws. 1. Tax farming hurt poor farmers by giving power to greedy tax collectors. 2. Jagir system weakened the state by handing over land and allowing corruption. 3. Religious tax, jizya, hurt social harmony and increased inequality. These three defects caused suffering among common people, loss of revenue and division in society, even though Firoz himself thought he was doing good for the empire. Would you like a comic strip, timeline, chart or MCQ-style quiz to revise this further? Just tell me how you want to study this best. Here is a great, deep and detailed summary of Firoz Shah Tughlaq's irrigation policy, explained in a clear, simple and complete way, just like the world's best teacher would explain it. Firoz Shah Tughlaq's irrigation policy, a powerful step for agriculture and people's welfare. Overview. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, a sultan of Delhi in the 14th century, is known for his practical and people-friendly approach. One of his greatest achievements was his work on irrigation, bringing water to dry lands to support farming, which in turn supported the livelihood of countless people. Why? He introduced irrigation. Agriculture was the main source of food and income for the people. Many areas of his kingdom were dry or dependent only on rainfall. Farmers were suffering due to droughts and poor harvests. Firoz understood that no water equals no farming equals no food, unhappy people equals poor economy, so he decided to bring water to those lands, like giving life back to the soil. What he did, the main measures, built 5 major canals, water channels. Canals are man-made rivers that carry water from real rivers to farmlands. No, canal route, purpose, length. 1. Yamuna River, Hisar in Haryana. Most important canal. 150 miles, 240 kilometers. 2. Satluj River, Gagara River, linked 2 rivers, 96 miles, 154 kilometers. Mandavi and Cern and Surmor Hills, Hunsi, brought hilly water to town, unknown. 4. Gagara River, Firozabad, supplied new town, unknown. 5. Yamuna River, Firozabad, extra water channel, unknown. These canals turned dry and barren areas into green, farmable land. Dug 150 wells. These wells served 2 purposes: for farmers to irrigate their crops, for travellers to drink water and rest. The wells were spread across the kingdom to make sure water was never too far away for anyone. Outcome: what happened because of these efforts? 1. Agriculture improved greatly. Large areas of dry land now received steady water. People could now grow superior crops like wheat, sugarcane, lentils, pulses, various fruits. New farming villages were created. In the Doab region, between Ganga and Yamuna rivers, 52 new colonies, villages, sprang up. These were new settlements formed due to the water access provided by the canals. 3. Over 160 miles of land was irrigated. This land, which was once dry, became highly productive. That's roughly the same as the distance between Delhi and Chandigarh, a huge area. Importance of this policy: Firoz's irrigation projects reduced hunger and poverty, gave people steady income, helped in the growth of trade since surplus food could now be sold, helped in population growth because people moved to the new fertile areas, made his kingdom more stable and prosperous. Long-term impact: some of the canals he built are still visible today, showing how strong and well-planned his work was. He became known as a builder king, not for palaces, but for public welfare projects. This policy became a model for future rulers who wanted to strengthen agriculture. In short, open quote, Firoz Shah Tughlaq's irrigation policy was one of the most successful and people-friendly programs in medieval Indian history. He changed the destiny of dry lands, lifted up poor farmers and strengthened the economy, not with war, but with water. Close quote. Would you like a comic strip, map or timeline to go with this summary? I can prepare that next. Absolutely. Here's a deep and detailed summary of Firoz Shah Tughlaq's public works, explained in the most clear and simple way possible, but rich in depth. Firoz Shah Tughlaq's public works, a deep and detailed summary. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, who ruled the Delhi Sultanate from 1351 to 1388 CE, is remembered as one of the most public welfare-focused rulers in Indian history. Unlike many kings who only built forts and palaces for themselves, Firoz focused on creating things for the benefit of common people, what we call public works. Let's understand his contributions in clear, deep detail. Nap 1. Creation and restoration of towns and villages. It is said Firoz Shah founded 300 towns. While that number seems high, historians believe this includes restoring abandoned or ruined villages too. Many villages had become empty due to wars, famines, or poor administration. Firoz brought these places back to life by repairing them, supporting farmers, and encouraging people to live there again. By doing this, he turned empty lands into living, growing communities. Key cities. Founded, city, present-day location importance: Firozabad, Delhi, Kot Firoz Shah, capital with palace and mosque. Fatehabad, Haryana, strategically important. Hisar, Haryana, grew into a key city. Jaunpur, Uttar Pradesh, became a famous cultural and educational centre. Firozpur, near Badaun, UP, another regional hub with his name. Matu, massive construction for public use. Firoz Shah believed in developing the country's infrastructure to improve life for all, rich or poor. Here's what he built. Structure. Number built purpose. Mosques 4, places for prayer and religious gatherings. Palaces 30, residences for the royal family and officials. Caravanserais 200, free resting places for travellers and traders. Reservoirs 5, huge tanks to store clean water for daily use and farming. Hospitals 5, healthcare for the sick, possibly free or low cost. Tombs 100, graves for people, some religious, some royal. Baths, hammams, public baths for hygiene. Monumental tombs 10, large decorated tombs showing art and architecture. Bridges 100, to improve transport and movement of goods and people. Why was this important? In the 1300s there were few facilities for the poor. Clean water, hospitals and rest houses were rare. Firoz made them accessible, improving public health, trade, travel and comfort. Number 3, respect for ancient Indian history. Ashoka's pillars. Firoz Shah admired ancient Indian heritage. He transported 2 ancient stone pillars built by Emperor Ashoka, 3rd century BCE, to Delhi. One came from Khizrabad, the other from near Meerut. These pillars had inscriptions in ancient scripts preaching peace, kindness and good rule. This shows he valued history, not just his own rule. He preserved monuments, which was rare in that era. 4. Creation of 1,200 fruit gardens around Delhi. One of his most impressive and visionary works was his large-scale effort to plant gardens. What he did. Firoz planted 1,200 gardens around the capital, Delhi. These gardens were filled with fruit trees like mango, guava, banana and more. These fruits were sold in markets and the money went to the royal treasury. Result? These gardens brought in an annual income of 1,080,000 tankers, a silver coin used then. This showed that even greenery and beauty could be economically useful. Why this was brilliant. Gardens gave food, shade, jobs and income. It was eco-friendly development centuries before the term existed. 5. His vision as a ruler. Firoz Shah wasn't just a builder, he had a bigger vision. Support for farmers, gave land, built canals and encouraged cultivation. Help for travellers, inns, bridges and roads. Care for public health, hospitals and baths. Love for culture and history, preserved ancient relics and respected India's past. Focus on environment, planted thousands of trees and gardens. Economic sense, turned gardens into sources of income. He believed a king's job was not just to fight wars, but to serve the people and improve their lives. Final deep summary, essence in one block. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was one of the few medieval Indian rulers who truly cared for the well-being of his people. He built hundreds of public buildings, mosques, hospitals, bridges, palaces and inns. He restored villages, founded new towns, supported farming and respected historical monuments. His vision of green development led him to plant 1,200 fruit gardens, which not only added beauty to Delhi, but also generated huge income. He moved ancient Ashokan pillars to Delhi to preserve the past. Through his efforts, he made life easier, healthier, and more prosperous for common people. His rule was a rare example of a medieval king who thought like a modern administrator, with focus on development, welfare, and sustainability. Would you like a PDF version of this summary? A colourful comic strip showing his projects visually? A mini quiz to revise this? Let me know and I'll create it for you. Here is a great, deep and detailed summary of the topic, Justice and Humanitarian Measures of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, written in the simplest possible language yet complete and thorough. Firoz Shah Tughlaq's Justice and Humanitarian Measures, great deep detailed summary in the simplest language. 1. Justice system of Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Firoz Shah Tughlaq ruled his kingdom by following Islamic laws, Sharia. He believed that justice should be given fairly and according to the Quran and Islamic traditions. Key features. A. Islamic law as the base. He used Islamic law to decide what was right or wrong. He didn't create his own personal rules. For example, if someone stole, the punishment came from Islamic books, not just from the king's mood. B. Judges and legal officers appointed. He made a proper system for justice, a chief qazi head judge in the capital, Delhi. Other qazis, judges, in towns and provinces. This meant that the justice system was spread all over the empire, not just in one place. C. Role of mufti and qazi. In Islamic law, the Mufti explained what the law says, like a legal advisor. The Qazi gave the final judgment, like a judge in court. This separation ensured that decisions were made carefully and based on proper understanding of the law. D. Abolishing torture. Torture was commonly used before Firoz to make people tell the truth, e.g., beating prisoners to get confessions. Firoz banned this cruel practice. He believed people should not be hurt just to get the truth. This was a big step for human rights at that time. E. Too much mercy. A problem. Firoz was a very kind man. Sometimes even serious criminals were given very light punishments or not punished at all. This kindness led to problems. Criminals became less afraid of the law. Crime increased because punishment was too soft. People lost faith in law and justice. So his extreme kindness backfired and caused law and order issues. Number 2. Humanitarian and welfare measures of Firoz Shah. Firoz Shah was not just a ruler, he was a caring king who tried to help the poor and the needy. He introduced many welfare schemes that were ahead of their time. Nahar Day, Employment Bureau, Job Center. He set up a government office to help unemployed people find jobs. People with no work could register their names. Based on their skills and fitness, they were given jobs. Example, if someone could read-write, given a clerical job. If someone was strong, hired for labor work. This helped many people earn and support their families. B. Diwani Khairat, Charity Department. Firoz created a special office called Diwani Khairat, which means Department of Charity. This office gave money and help to poor Muslim girls to help with marriage expenses, widows, women whose husbands had died, orphans, children with no parents. This was one of the first organized charity systems in medieval India. Darul Shafa, Charitable Hospital. Firoz also built a hospital for poor people called Darul Shafa, House of Healing. The hospital had trained doctors. Patients were given free medicines and free food. This was a public health initiative, much like modern government hospitals. Conclusion. What makes Firoz special? Firoz Shah Tughlaq was a unique ruler in Indian history. He tried to build a caring and fair state. His good actions, banned torture, built a legal system, appointed proper judges, helped the poor, unemployed, widows and orphans, built a hospital for free treatment. His weakness, he was too soft on criminals. His excessive mercy led to poor law and order. Final words. Firoz Shah Tughlaq tried to be a just king and a kind ruler. He balanced religious justice with compassion for people. While his humanitarian work was excellent, his failure to control crime shows that a ruler must be kind, but also firm. Would you like this as a PDF handout, illustrated comic strip mind map, flashcards, quiz for revision? Just tell me. I'll make it instantly for you. Here is a great, deep and detailed summary of promotion of learning under Firoz Shah Tughlaq in the simplest language, covering all major points clearly and fully. Deep summary. Promotion of learning by Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Who was Firoz Shah Tughlaq? Firoz Shah Tughlaq was a ruler of the Delhi Sultanate in the 14th century, 1351 to 1388 CE. He is especially known for his love of knowledge, building public works and helping scholars. He believed that education was the backbone of a strong empire. His support for learning. 1. Love for education. Firoz Shah personally loved learning. He believed that knowledge makes a ruler wise and a society stronger. He didn't just support religious studies, he showed interest in history, medicine, and even Hindu texts. 2. Support for scholars, ulema, historians, teachers. He was a patron of scholars, meaning he gave them money, housing, and resources. Scholars were given subsistence allowances, living expenses, so they could focus on their work without worrying about income. He respected and honored scholars from all over his empire. 3. Building of educational institutions. He established many schools, madrasas and monasteries, khanqahs or religious places. Each mosque had an attached school, so that education and religion went hand in hand. He made sure that educated people ran these schools. These institutions were given money, land, and materials to keep them running. Firoz and history. 4. Encouragement of historians. Firoz loved history and supported famous historians like Ziauddin Barani, who wrote Fatwa-i Jahandari, Shamsi Siraj Afif, who wrote Tarikh-i Firozshahi. These historians wrote about How Kings Should Behave, the events during Firoz's rule, Islamic law and society. At 5, his own autobiography. Firoz Shah wrote a book about his own life and achievements. The book is called Futuhat-i Firoz Shahi, which means the victories of Firoz Shah. This book gives us first-hand information about his projects, canals, buildings, his wars, his religious ideas, his thoughts as a ruler. Interest in Hindu learning. 6. After conquest of Kangra. When Firoz's army captured Kangra, he found a large library filled with Sanskrit books. Instead of destroying them, he respected their value. 7. Translation of Sanskrit works. He ordered the translation of many Sanskrit books into Persian, the main language of his court. One translated book was called Dalayali Firoz Shahi, a collection of Hindu knowledge presented to the Muslim world. This shows his openness to other cultures and knowledge systems, which was rare for that time. Growth of Islamic studies. 8. Support for Islamic education. Firoz gave great attention to Islamic sects like theology, study of God and religion, jurisprudence, study of Islamic law, Arabic grammar, logic and religious philosophy. He made Islamic scholars more active and encouraged religious debates. Limitation: narrow-minded scholars. 9. Religious fanaticism. Although learning increased, many scholars of that time were narrow-minded, fanatic, extreme in religion, not open to new ideas. They rejected non-Islamic knowledge and believed only Islamic teachings mattered. This limited the growth of broader education, science, philosophy, etc. Final thoughts. Firoz Shah's reign was one of the most education-friendly periods in medieval India. He built many schools and colleges, supported historians, translated Sanskrit books, encouraged Islamic learning. But the religious narrowness of many scholars meant that open-minded scientific or global education could not fully grow. Still, Firoz Shah Tughlaq deserves credit as one of the first Indian rulers to actively promote knowledge, education, and multi-religious scholarship. Keyword summary, quick recall. Madrasas, Islamic schools, mosques with schools, learnings, religion. Barani and Afif, historians under Firoz, Futuhat-i Firoz Shahi, his autobiography. Fatwa-i Jahandari, Islamic political theory. Tariq-i Firoz Shahi, history of his reign. Dalayali Firoz Shahi, translated Hindu knowledge. Jurisprudence, Islamic law. Religious fanaticism, narrow-minded scholars. Let me know if you want. MCUs or short answer questions, comic strip or illustrated story, mind map or timeline, PDF summary to download. I'll make it right away.